parentheses. Ooh, this just did not work for me. Hey, I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Wine Club. This is the playlist where I drink good wine while I whine about bad books. And today's offender, unfortunately, is They All Fall Down by Rachel Housel Hall. So I was introduced to Housel Hall's work via one of my book subscription boxes. I'm 99% confident that it was Scribbler, and I've had her on my radar for a future read. Unfortunately, this just was not the right book for me. Fair warning, there are going to be spoilers in this review, and like I say in all my reviews, this is solely about the book and not about the author as a person. I really enjoyed Housel Hall's These Toxic Things, so that's why I was excited to get my hands on this. This one just didn't pan out, but let's go ahead and see what the book promised to be about. Delighted by a surprise invitation, Miriam Macy sails to a luxurious private island off the coast of Mexico with 6 other strangers. Surrounded by miles of open water in the gloriously green Sea of Cortez, Miriam is soon shocked to discover that she and the rest of her companions have been brought to the remote island under false pretenses. And all 7 strangers harbor a secret. Danger lurks in the lush forest and in the halls and bedrooms of the lonely mansion. Sporadic cell phone coverage and miles of ocean keep the group trapped in paradise. And strange accidents stir suspicions, as one by one, they all fall down. So I have to say, my first red flag when I started reading this was the writing style. We start with a prologue / flash forward, and there was just something about the writing style that I didn't love. Then it just kind of got worse when we really kick off the story, and because Miriam just adds these little notes to her own thoughts. We're following Miriam, and all of her thoughts come with some sort of editorial styling, with her thoughts in parentheses. I didn't get it, I didn't understand it, and I did not like how choppy it was. I read on Goodreads that one reviewer said that this is tied to her job, where she writes pithy little comments about items that are listed for sale on a secondhand reseller. So she's just kind of carrying that over in her own point of view, but it really took me out of the story. It was not a writing choice that I absolutely loved. Let me see if I can find an example. Okay, so this is an example. This is page 19, and it's probably not going to read as well with me reading it, but I'll do my best. A week later, I took a leave of absence from my job as the marketing and communications director for Hidden Treasures, a luxury goods consignment store. I'd loved my job, spinning stories about a secondhand Gucci satchel, parentheses, Indy stowed that simple cup here without worry, end parentheses, or a Chanel brooch, parentheses, she always said you had Coco's overactive imagination, ... end parentheses, or Louboutin stilettos, parentheses, at the stroke of midnight, you choose the shoe over the prince, ... end parentheses. Ooh, this just did not work for me. This really made it a chore to read. It was just this stream of consciousness about stupid stuff, and I didn't like it. Your mileage may vary, this writing style may work for you. It just did not work for me. The next red flag was that I hated everyone in this. There is no one to root for. There is absolutely no subtlety or morally gray characters. Everyone is the absolute worst. This is a retelling of And Then There Were None. And so you expect there to be a reason for these people to fall down, but they're just so black and white bad. And they're just so mean to each other right off the bat. It kind of reminded me of Glass Onion, where you have the snobby rich people, but you do get to see some of their like softer sides or other aspects that make them feel like a real person and kind of shows that they have other traits to themselves. Everyone in this, they're just the worst. Like, John Ralphio would not even want to hang out with them. So essentially, our cast of characters in this are the 7 deadly sins personified, and they've all been brought to this island by their deceased lawyer Phil to be punished for being truly heinous people. So we've got our leading lady, Miriam, who is Pride. We've got Wallace, who's Phil's husband, maybe his boyfriend. I'm pretty sure it's his husband. And I truly don't know if he's supposed to be Sloth or Envy. We've got Evelyn, this sociopathic nurse who could also either be Sloth or Envy. Eddie, a murderous and self-righteous cop. Anger, obviously. We've got Frank, who's a con artist and money stealer, so greed. Desiree, who is lust, and even that's a little too on the nose for my liking. And then we've got Javier, a chef and a parent glutton. So there's this whole scene with like this piece of art and some little figurines depicting the 7 deadly sins. And then the figurines start disappearing as the cast gets smaller. But even that whole aspect is kind of like shoved into the background. Like, either do something with it or don't include it. So like I said, they're all lured to the island, escape under false pretenses. Like, Miriam thinks she's going to be on some reality TV show and could win millions. Her husband has left her, and her daughter hates her, and Miriam is just delusional and is apparently related to season 6's Love is Blind dater Matthew, as she thinks America will just fall in love with her and root for her and see her for the wonder she is. Except she's not. Miriam is unpleasant, shallow, manipulative, cocky, irritating. She has visions of grandeur and is generally just quite insufferable. She's an extremely unreliable narrator and even has like these hallucinations and semi-blackout episodes that I don't think they ever got explained. So our cast of characters gets to Mexico, gets on a boat, and then Wallace tells them that they've been hoodwinked, and Phil, their lawyer, is dead, and this is his memorial service. And again, there's just no subtlety here. Wallace is extremely antagonistic toward the group and doesn't even try to hide his true intentions. And then we get the scene where like Evelyn apologizes to Miriam when they get to the island and like the house that they're staying at. And I knew immediately that she was in on it and would be at least one of the killers if there were going to be multiple. And I was right. But the killings don't even start until halfway through the book. We know these people are awful. We know something happened in Miriam's past that required Phil's services and her family abandoning her. But it just took way too long to get to some of these deaths and reveals. Like, Javier is the first to go, but it's an accident. He intercepted the poison that was meant for Miriam, courtesy of Evelyn. Aha, I was right. So Desi goes next, but it was so annoying because Miriam wakes up in the morning after hearing some glass breaking. She tells people what she heard, and then Evelyn comes out and announces that Desiree is dead. Then they go to Desi's room, and the door is locked, and Eddie the psycho cop has to kick the door in. Come on, Miriam, think. How did Evelyn know that Desi was already dead then, unless she did it? And it takes another like 30-some pages for Miriam to connect the dots and think, that is strange. How did Evelyn know that Desi was dead if her bedroom door was locked? Gee, I wonder. Then Frank, our greed guy, is boiled to death in his in-room bathtub, and Evelyn is walking around with burns on her hands. Like, come on! We do get a nice misdirect when we find Evelyn hanging from a tree. At the end of the day, we do find out that Phil did orchestrate everything and tasked Evelyn with killing Miriam, Desi, and Frank, and then she was to hang herself. And she does. Evelyn, sweetie, how would he know if You did what he asked. He's already gone. Not that I want her to survive, because again, she's a terrible person, but I don't know why she went through with taking her own life for this guy. So at this point in the book, Eddie has used up the rest of Javier's stash of coke and is imagining that Miriam is his ex-girlfriend Charlotte. So Miriam shoots him, and then Wallace gets locked in a safe room and finds this note that Phil left for him explaining everything and basically telling him, like, haha, you're gonna die here. We also find out that Wallace isn't as perfect as he pretends to be because he let his twin brother die when they were kids and then killed his parents for the insurance money. Couldn't there be someone that I like in this? I'm not really sure how to explain it, but this book just really did not work for me. Like I said earlier, there's absolutely no subtlety as all the characters are horrendous and truly awful people. I just expected a bit more nuance, or at least like I was going to be tricked into liking someone and then realizing that they're bad. I wanted layered characters, or even characters who do bad things but for a good reason. I would even take like knowing they're bad, but there's just something about them that I still like. Like, I do think the show Supernatural did this really well with the character of Lucifer. You know he's Satan, but he's also kind of charming and sarcastic, and he does tell the truth, and you kind of can't help but laugh and agree with him on some points. None of the characters in this made me feel that way. Like, Wallace is maybe the only character that came somewhat close, but even he's a real drama llama, and I wanted to reach into the book and just smack him. And again, being in Miriam's head was hella annoying throughout it all. Because we find out what her secret is and why she had to use Phil. It's because she bullied her daughter's bully until the girl took her own life. And Miriam does not seem that bothered by what she did. And then, in the end, everyone dies. Everyone dies. Even Miriam. There's no redemption. It was just, she fell into the water and died. Neat. Unfortunately, this was a miss for me. I think this is landing in the 2-star range. Maybe 2.5 if I'm being generous. The characters weren't compelling. The writing style was not my cup of tea or my glass of wine. And I just left the book disappointed. This was kind of a mess and really wasted some good potential. The bones are there. I don't think it came together as well as House of Hall meant for it, or it's not the exact same book that she had in her head. If you need something somewhat mindless or something that doesn't really matter or leave a mark, this could be an okay read. But I would definitely not recommend this as the first foray into her work. I'm still going to give House of Hall a try again in the future, as I did have a good experience with my first title by her. But this was not great. So tell me, what retellings of And Then There Were None have you really enjoyed? Tell me your recommendations in the comments below, because I would love to check them out. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time at Wine Club.